A warm welcome to Business Today. Thank you for joining us for this particular bulletin. My name is RONAH NAHABWE with Winnie Wiyinza which in the sign language. It's a pleasure. Now, to begin with, let's look at the clearance backlog at the Malaba border. At the Malaba border, there is a backlog in clearance for cargo transporters, which is threatening to drive up expenses and expose importers to increased storage fees. According to the drivers at the Kenya Revenue Authority scanner, the border has had irregular outages to creating traffic at the border. Naomi Mutumba has details to this report.
The Malaba border is the busiest crossing point for trucks using the Northern Corridor, which connects landlocked countries of Uganda, DR Congo, South Sudan, and parts of Rwanda to the port of Mombasa. Approximately 1,000 cargo trucks pass through the Malaba one-stop border post each day, while the one in Busia handles an average of 600 trucks. Cargo transporters at the Malaba border have blamed Kenya Revenue Authority on the backlog, which takes them approximately 3 days, thus causing them spend even more money and time.
Uganda to Kenya.
Time.
The problem we are facing at Kenya border coming from Uganda, we as drivers face too much jam on the customs side, especially clearing from Kenyan side. It's very worse because their systems are too slow, especially with the scan. And when we try to inquire, they tell us the scan is too slow. When you enter into the customs way, it takes you 24 hours from Ugandan side to Kenyan side. And you find that the money they gave you to transport the cargo, you have used it up, plus you find when the fuel is not enough to Mombasa.
Provides for a platform of faster clearance of cargo. And that's what we operate as Malaba, both on the Ugandan and Kenyan sides. What that means is that the processes you'll find implemented in this kind of arrangement might differ a bit from the processes you'll find in an ordinary border setting.
Kenya Revenue Authority has been banking on non-intrusive inspection, the technology such as X-ray or gamma-ray imaging type equipment, which gives customs an opportunity to have a quick insight of a container load without the need to open and unload it. This helps officers in either confirming or resolving the risk assessment, which reduces the number of unnecessary physical inspections. Huge investment in non-intrusive tools at the port and borders is key in reducing cargo dwell time, enhanced trade facilitation through faster movement of cargo, and enables KRA to collect more revenue. However, at the Malaba border, that's not the case.
And transit in the port, this is a one-stop border post, so they make only one stop at the country of destination. So if goods are destined to Uganda or Rwanda, once they arrive at Malaba, they don't stop at any place within the Kenyan side. They proceed directly to the Joint Verification Office. Joint Verification Office in Uganda, where we have our officer there.
Minister wa Uganda, over Uganda government, government in Kenya.
We request Ugandan government to work together with the Kenyan government so that the issue is resolved, because it is not the same with the Ugandan system unless you pay some extra money.
Uganda is the biggest destination for transit cargo through Mombasa, accounting for about 83.2% of transit volumes. South Sudan takes up 9.9%, while DR Congo, Tanzania and Rwanda account for 7.2%, 3.2% and 2.4% respectively. In January, delays at the border affected truck turnaround time between Mombasa and Kampala, which increased to 10 days from 3.5 days. As of yesterday, the truck snarl-up had stretched about 30 kilometers, a situation similar to January this year, when Kenya and Uganda differed on the validity of COVID test certificates for drivers. Naomi Mutumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you, Naomi Mutumba, for that report. Now let's look at a story about tax amendments affecting SMEs. Now, while Uganda Revenue Authority has a revenue target of 25.8 trillion shillings for 2022-2023, we are cognizant of the fact that Ugandan taxpayers operate in a challenging economic environment characterized by the rising commodity prices and commercial banking lending rates. Therefore, it has created policies for compliance that will aid increased tax revenue, increased tax collection. Let's have the story.
The Uganda Revenue Authority recently increased taxes on imported new shoes, used bags, shoes and clothing. However, after the meeting held on 15th of this month, all taxes were reduced to their previous levels, with the exception of those on new shoes. Kasita has publicly denounced URA's practice of raising taxes whenever they like during the same fiscal year without taking the plight of traders into account.
Whereas it is a requirement of customs under the World Customs Organization, and whereas the East African Customs Management Act provides for how we pay for taxes of imports and exports, it's challenging and it causes a lot of disharmony to be increasing taxes, especially values, within short periods.
Having said that, the use of intelligence and technology, as well as sharing the technologies URA is deploying, are at the core of these programs. To make it simpler to report unpaid taxes and combat tax evasion, URA is putting in place the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution, which is required for VAT-registered businesses in Uganda. As they describe, this has impacted numerous SMEs.
But the challenge we are having with taxes is taxes are increasing the cost of doing business. But at the end of the day, when the cost of doing business increases, that means even the prices of our products also increase. When the prices increase, they will become less competitive compared to some of the products that are, for example, being imported from other countries that have lower prices.
They are not consulting us as people who are affected by this tax. For example, we are getting different taxes which are not necessary. I started this business as a graduate student, as a youth who was struggling to get into employment, and I got fed up. But it was a government program of the Youth Rifle Program, whereby we are given money by the government. They didn't even tell us that you pay tax, that you do the thing. They just came, bring you on the to bring all this, and they gave us the money.
However, because they are so adversely impacted, they have pleaded with the government to treat them as small enterprises, review the changes, and hold discussions before announcing any more changes.
Uganda Revenue Authority, like I've always been saying, needs to be consulting sectoral meetings, consulting traders of a particular industry or sector that has been affected or is about to be affected. The good thing is that Kasita and the other associations have formulated strategic associations, tiles, hardware, used items.
Revise the tax policies for SMEs because that has affected our cost of doing business and made us less competitive. And the appeal is if the government can set more favorable tax policies that would help our businesses survive, but also be able to enable us give back to government, then that will be a win-win for both us, the SMEs, as well as the government.
URA is putting in place more innovative solutions such as cargo tracking system and non-intrusive inspection technologies to guarantee a fully integrated IT system for effective trade facilitation and transparency of imports and exports in Uganda. Monica Nabyonga, Smart24 TV, Business Today.
Moving on, let's look at the inclusive credit access. The number of fintech businesses entering the market is evidence that the digital and the financial inclusion are expanding in Uganda. However, it is our common responsibility to reach out to the underprivileged groups and bring them into the space of the financial inclusion. Sphere cooperation between enterprises in the spaces have been recommended to make services more affordable. Mobile banking, which has more than 7 million users, is currently the most widely used method of credit access in Uganda. Because of the nation's growing technological acceptance and use, telecom businesses have seen a 10 times growth post-COVID. And now rural residents now have better access to financial services.
especially when you look at masses of the people, whereby traditionally, if you look at the banks, commercial banks, they could only offer credit to the people with collaterals. With mobile money, the most interesting thing that we have been able to extend with the fintechs, we are able to extend this service to literally everyone just by looking at your payment behavior and being able to do a credit score. You'll be from what we're trying to look at the period before the COVID and the post-COVID era, and what we can see is some of the behavior, some of the services that we introduced during that COVID time, where like in Airtel Money we were able to offer a Wewole loan product. What we have seen is a 10 times growth post-COVID, meaning that product was needed in the society.
This expansion, of course, attracted greater attention and fraud, which is why the Uganda Communications Commission continues to turn off fake phones.
One of the questions that came from to the panel was, why are we enabling reversal of the money? Why are we enabling people to reverse money? We might have offered a service and it's being reversed. So we have clarified that that reversal, when you initiate it, for example, in Airtel Money by dialing *185*8 #, then selecting the transaction you want to reverse, we do not complete the reversal. We hold that money so that customer care now can engage the two parties so that they agree on whether to complete the reversal or to release the money back to the owner.
What Uganda Communications Commission is trying to do is not remove button phones. Yes, would desire that every Ugandan gets a smartphone, because that's the only way they will enjoy broadband services. Because with that button phone, it cannot do internet. But there are those phones, whether it is a smartphone, whether it's a button phone, that are substandard. I may stand here with you and you say, my phone has no network, and I'm telling you, yeah, but mine I'm able to connect. So if your phone is not made to the right standards, you're going to have quality of service issues. You've heard those stories about the person had a phone in their pocket and it exploded. But it was supposed to be an actual Nokia phone. You find it was not a genuine phone. So we are trying to address the issue of risks of health and safety and quality of service by making sure whether it's a capability phone, whether it is a smartphone, but for as long as it is substandard.
According to sources, the Private Sector Foundation Uganda wants to implement the nationwide payment switch to lower the cost of financial services.
If services are there and are expensive, people will not use them. That's why I've said all the players need to collaborate and find a way of making these prices affordable. For example, in the payment systems, that's why you see the Private Sector Foundation is working on the national payment switch. Now, if there is a national payment switch, costs of transactions will be cheap because the national payment switch will be supported and regulated by the government. There won't be issues of MTN to Airtel expensive, MTN to MTN cheap, because there will be one national payment switch. In the same spirit, internet service providers should reach at a point where they find a way of reducing the cost of internet, because it is a great enabler, but again, it being expensive makes it a disenabler.
Security is very important as we push for financial inclusion. Awareness and sensitization, especially on the customer's side, is the only way we can combat cyber fraud. RONAH, Smart 24 TV, Business Today. Now, under the banner of removing obstacles of meaningful youth engagement and inclusion in campaigning for physical justice, Fri-18 Uganda, in collaboration with the Institute for Social Transformation, Oxfam and Femnet, have organized a session on youth and tax in honor of African Youth Day and Month 2022. This aims to increase Uganda participation in physical policies by increasing awareness of taxes and generating opinions. Let's have the story.
Uganda aims to advance taxation as means of funding the country's ambitions for sustainable development. Given that 1.2 billion of Africa's population is under 35 years old and that youth make up more than 75% of the population, the trajectory of the continent is significantly and permanently impacted by the development results of Africa's youth. In honor of African Youth Day, attention is being placed on the taxation of youth and how government can hear their opinions to create laws that are receptive to their requirements.
Part of the Africa Youth Month to commemorate and celebrate the Africa Youth Day. And What we are focusing on today is looking at the role of the youth in taxation, how they can participate in these processes, how they can have their voices heard, and basically it's to ensure that government is putting in place policies that are responsive to the needs of the youth.
We are here today commemorating the African Youth Day. But specifically focusing on taxation, youth and taxation. We want to see that youth participate meaningfully, especially when it comes to lobbying and also advocacy in regards to how taxes are being used by government. Because some of the things, if they are not in the know, then they will not stand a chance of asking where their taxes are going. So we are here to raise awareness, to bring them to the fora that yes, this is their space. They should know about taxes, but they should also hold leaders accountable.
The focus for this year is removing obstacles to effective youth involvement and inclusion in advocating for financial justice. Civil society organizations urge young people to make decisions in this area.
Ensuring that we empower them in business and financial literacy, because through their businesses they will be able to contribute to the taxes that the government or the government needs to ensure that the services are delivered, and also to bring them to appreciate that taxes are not bad, taxes are good, but in that process, do you know what your taxes, the taxes you're paying is doing, that you should follow up? Not to leave it that, yes, I paid the taxes, and then you stay in your corner complaining. It will not solve the issues. Come out and speak. Yes, so the power of voice is very important.
Topic of youth, because first of all, the youth are the majority of the population. We know they're the next generation of taxpayers, but we also understand that they've not been effectively engaged in tax policy processes. They have not been able to have their voices heard, and in most instances, we've come to learn that the policies that we have in place are not exactly responsive to their needs. And given that this is the Africa Youth Month, and that one of the things that they're pushing for as African Union is to have youth voices heard, especially when it comes to governance.
Tax education is a key tool to boosting the willingness of the youth and their businesses to pay tax, which play a vital role at mobilizing tax revenues needed to help achieve the sustainable development goals.
As students, we are ignorant about tax education. I feel this gives us the knowledge and empowers us and teaches us about the tax system in Uganda, where our taxes going, what percentages are going to be taken out from our incomes. So this teaches us to plan, because we are going out into the business world and getting employed. This teaches us the mathematics for most of us that don't do accounting as a course and are not specifying in taxation.
I'm here to clarify about the importance of tax education. First of all, tax education creates awareness amongst people, so that when someone comes to collect tax, you're already aware on the taxes to be paid by certain person in different places. For example, in the markets, you get that awareness of what to pay, which amounts to pay, and what's not to be paid.
Increased awareness of how tax education tools can encourage youth to voluntarily comply with the law, can assist nations in raising the necessary funds to meet the sustainable development goals and foster public confidence in the fairness of the tax system, both of which are necessary for effective tax systems. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now let's look at the Uganda Handcraft Expo 2022. The project coordinator from the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Grace Aulombabazi, presented some of the government of the Uganda's accomplishments to the Handcraft Expo 2022 launch, which will be held from the November 24th up to November 26th, 2022 at the Uganda Museum, and will be attended by the Prime Minister as the guest of honor, and Samuel Chirimunda has compiled the story.
Uganda's handcrafts are marketed to both domestic and foreign markets. With inconsistent market access, entry and penetration strategies, as well as insufficient market distribution networks, Uganda's handcraft industry is mostly conducted informally. Both natives and foreigners are being consumers of art and craft in Uganda because it has the ability to preserve culture, and so many people buy the works of art because of their origins and cultural heritage. Together with the United Nations Ministry of Tourism, tourism has been working together with Uganda through different projects to enhance the sector.
We have done the fair trade certification, which is almost at the end, towards the end. And here we are, the three producers are being certified under the World Fair Trade Certification in order to trade under fairer conditions. Under certification also we have done the QMS, that is Quality Management System, on ISO 9001. 3 companies are also being certified to get that. We have also done exhibitions, in regional exhibitions. We took six producers to Mwanza for the East African Community exhibition, the Juakali, where they sold their crafts and they networked and also got some deals. We have also taken 3 producers to Dubai Downtown Design Hub. Here the producers have showcased the 3 producers that have showcased their products for interior decor, hotels and restaurants, kitchen, everything. That one was also done. We also developed 11 websites for the 11 enterprises. So they are now, most of them are selling online using the website. We are also constructing a production center for a big association along the tourism circuit near Maction Falls National Park at Chumbanyobo Gate, where the producers will congregate and make sure that they quality assure all their products before they dispatch them for selling.
Over 100 businesses from all over Uganda will showcase their solid locally produced goods, and more than 10,000 people are anticipated to participate in the expo to promote value addition, produce more handcrafted goods of high quality and display.
Under this project, one of the deliverables, ladies and gentlemen, is the hosting of or holding of the Uganda Crafts Expo. This is the first one of its kind, and this is purely Ugandan crafts, authentic Ugandan crafts, which is going to be hosted next week from 24th to 26th November at the Uganda Museum.
Martin Mugarabahinduka, the State Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, informed Ugandans that this expo is a chance to train more people and equip them with more skills so that they can serve the private sector as well as the government of Uganda.
That for us, ours is mainly to create the enabling environment so that our people can participate and make some income at the end of the day. We shall not do everything for the entire private sector, but we shall always create a platform, and that's why we are saying in terms of trading and all this, to make sure that our people compete fairly or produce products that can compete internationally with the rest of the people in the business globally. Now,
Minister Bahinduka says 120 groups were trained by the Ministry of Tourism, and they are going to exhibit some of their products as well as searching for the markets.
Groups and the thousands. I think as a ministry, we've already trained 120 groups so far, given them the skill to go and train the others that at the lower local governments or the other parts of the country. So I believe the numbers are good, but probably going forward, as we champion the sector, and I want to thank, like the Commissioner said, the European Union for supporting us in this, that we shall get better, maybe avail better figures going forward. But it is something that involves so many people, and want to encourage them to produce the best products that can compete globally so that they can make a living.
The expo will offer a once-in-a-lifetime chance for those working in the handcraft and souvenir subsector to network, meet potential customers, and talk about business opportunities with the stakeholders, including service providers, along the sector's value chain. Desire Nambiru, Samuel Chirimonda, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you, Desire Namuviru and Samuel Chirimonda, for that report. Now, moving on, let's look at gender strategy. There has been some advancement for women's rights on a global scale. As of February 2021, women had a 34.9% of the seats in Uganda's parliament. National Planning Act 2002 requires that plans and budgets the gender for equity and compliant for the Uganda Gender Policy 2017. This requires all sectors to design interventions that address gender inequalities within their mandate. Martha Namsima has details this report.
The gender strategy and action plan addresses keywords on tackling gender inequality issues in Uganda as government bodies adopt a holistic approach to all SDGs, develop oil resources and energy poverty, but also obtain resources for developing our infrastructure, putting an end to hunger, combating diseases, and taking care of environmental issues, sustainability.
It is in line with the SDG goal number 5, which is to achieve gender equity and empower women and girls, and SDG number 7, which ensures access to affordable, reliable, clean, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Takes a holistic approach to all the SDGs. A holistic approach. We are supposed to end energy poverty by making sure that we get access of energy, affordable energy, clean energy to all. But we are supposed to end the real poverty. We are supposed to end hunger. We are supposed to give education for all. We are supposed to give health for all. So we handle everything holistically. By doing this, I make sure that I protect our move to develop our upstream in the petroleum sector.
Ms. Grace Tumsime further goes on to explain functions of NDP3, saying that Sustainable Goals 5 and 7 are intended to raise awareness among Ugandans, improve access to and consumption of clean energy, boost the use of primary energy, and place emphasis on gender mainstreaming in the workplace.
One is to create awareness, to let everyone know that we have had this achievement. The second one is to appreciate the roles of the key stakeholders who have made this possible. And then the third one, Honorable Minister, is actually to formally present this strategy to us, to the public, to all the stakeholders.
Maintaining the NDP sustainable target is crucial because gender mainstreaming creates opportunities for infrastructure and economic growth. Uganda has seen significant progress in this area, and thanks to the creation of a sexual harassment policy that safeguards workers and facilitates good working relationships.
The sustainable development goal number 5, which is clear on achieving gender equality and empowering women and girls as per the Beijing Declaration. Therefore, GIZ is actually pleased to note that over the years, the Energy Ministry has registered major improvements, and I think also that has been mentioned here in mainstreaming gender. That has included lots of elements of it, including development of a sexual harassment policy, which I'm made to understand, Honourable Minister, that it will also be launched today.
Only 42.6% of the indicators required to track the SDGs from the standpoint of gender were accessible as of December 2020, and there were gaps in important areas, particularly in the field of information and communication technology skills. Additionally, several sectors lack equivalent approaches to routine monitoring, including gender and environment, physical and sexual harassment, women's access to assets, including land, and gender and poverty. For Uganda to fulfill its SDG obligation relating to gender, it is imperative to close gender data gaps. Martha Namsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
This Business Today will now take a break, but we'll return with the antimicrobial resistance and a story about women empowerment. Please don't go away.
Smart 24, driving business.
Luxury redefined at Seasand Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, Our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at Seasand Hotel. So visit today at Plot 15-19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. Seasand Hotels, luxury redefined.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from that short commercial break, and thank you for sticking with us here at Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. Now, as Uganda joins the rest of the world to commemorate the World Antimicrobial Week, focus has been set to promoting resilience for maximum food and animal production, which are key areas for food security. Antimicrobial resistance has therefore become a crucial issue for address in sustainable production and human health as the cost of living crisis deepens. Let's have the story.
Benefits and hazards of antimicrobial medications used in animals raised for food continue to complex the controversial topics. The ability of bacteria to survive or develop in the presence of medications intended to stop them or kill them is known as antimicrobial resistance. Antimicrobials are prescribed to treat infectious disorders brought on by bacteria, fungi, viruses, and protozoan parasites. This harms agricultural livelihoods, reduces production, and jeopardizes food security. Antimicrobial resistance can also spread across other hosts and environments, and microbes that are resistant to antibiotics can contaminate the food supply.
Resistant infections in animals and even plants severely compromises agricultural production, animal production, and plant production, and the World Bank has estimated that the world could lose up to $3.8 trillion annually if resistant organisms continue spreading at the current rates that they are spreading.
The tropical climate of Uganda, which has favored ecological changes and the growth of pests and illness, is one important cause that has seriously jeopardized Uganda's position, especially in managing the bacteria. Therefore, a resistance to the antibiotics would be a threat to every significant sector in Uganda.
Uganda generally is a hotspot for pests and diseases. For primarily one reason: we sit on the equator where the conditions are favorable not only for human beings and environment, but also for pests and diseases. They also like favorable conditions. Number two, Uganda is in a transition from equatorial forest, which is in Congo, to the savannas. So we're in a transitional environment in terms of the agroecological condition. So those conditions present favorable conditions also for pests and diseases.
This has been further aggravated by irresponsible agricultural practices that has left food and animal production relentlessly needy.
Antibiotics were introduced in the treatment of animal diseases, and they were ultimately adopted in the in animal feeds as growth promoters, which is not really a good practice. Unfortunately, uncontrolled administration and repeated misuse of these life-saving drugs has exposed the antimicrobial resistance, has exposed them to resistance by these germs.
These leachates affect the quality of that soil. Those organisms will not survive. Even the plants, when those organisms that helps the plant or which decompose the organic matter are dead. So now meaning the soil will lack good fertility, and now the yield will be very low, or they will die sometime.
Every time we administer antimicrobials to people, animal, or plants, there is a danger that bacteria will develop the capacity to withstand the medication by developing resistance, gradually diminishing the effectiveness of the medications. Antimicrobial resistance is a serious global danger to human and animal health that is becoming more and more of a threat. Additionally, it affects the economic well-being of millions of farming households, as well as food security and safety. Desire Nambiru, Ivan Tivenkana, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you, Desire Nambiru, about that report for microbial resistance for animal production and as well as food production. Now, a targeted leadership program for women supported by both the CEO Summit and the National Social Security Fund has provided a safe environment for women to explore growing agency and self-clarity, aligning goals with intentions to build a strategic network and achieve greater life-work balance, resulting into outcomes in the areas of businesses. We have details of this story.
As NSSF continues to support the SDG 5 for sustainability in Uganda, addressing the issues women experience and meeting the demands of their leadership development, the following subjects were addressed in the engagement: gender and negotiation, board dynamics, successful change tactics, and negotiating the male factor in the workplace. Managerial Business Advisor Uganda Development Bank says women need to understand how to use their individual abilities to convince and influence in order to succeed in business.
For women today to advance, they need spaces where they can, 1, find self, 2, express themselves, 3, be able to deliver without being held back. And that's what this session is. This is a kind of session where it does not matter if you're employed, it does not matter if you own your business, but it is a space for you to get to know how you can advance as a woman in this environment of ours so that you can be able to thrive.
Go all the way. So in summary, not necessarily. Societal norms have created challenges. They've got to be acknowledged. So it's one thing to say, as an institution, we are an equal opportunity employer. It's another to acknowledge the fact that in spite of being an equal opportunity employer, the truth is the ladies are not there. Remember our board when it was appointed, there was only one lady. Did you notice? I hope you did. It was obvious, yeah? And it took the intervention of the new supervising minister, Minister of Gender and Labour, her mandate to create a reconstitution that brought more ladies. That's affirmative action.
Women's empowerment equips and allows women to make life-determining decisions through the different societal problems. This may be defined in several ways, including accepting women's viewpoints, making an effort to seek them, and raising the status of women through education, awareness, literacy, and training.
It's tailor-made for the women at NSSF just to show them that they have the potential and the ability to improve and to grow and become leading women within the organization. Because our idea is that not only men have the opportunities, but also women have the abilities and the potential to be at the seat.
I started getting interested in the subject of diversity and how diverse teams are high-performing teams. And part of that question of diversity was really about what women bring to the table. So it's not about one being more superior than the other. It's really about the power of teams and the power of diversity. So consciously myself, when I got the opportunity to expand the team, I've always said that we need more ladies in the team. And I started to research about the benefits that ladies bring, especially when it comes to decision making.
Women's empowerment has become a significant topic of discussing in development and economics. Economic development allows women to control and benefit from resources, assets, and income. Bronia Katsime, RONAH NAHABWE, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Most Ugandans worry about what exactly their money from NSSF or other saving plans does. So tonight on our coffee court, we discuss this concern by learning how the government uses savers' money and how to access it.
Well, it's a pleasure and thank you for joining us on this coffee court where we ask the critical questions. Most importantly, questions that matter. And this time round, we talk about savings. I know many times, many of us save our money. We never get to know whether the money reaches the right people. So in such circumstances, what do we do and how do we avoid this? Of course, definitely to help us digest this is Doris Kahura. He's a senior legal officer here at the Uganda Retirement Benefit Regulatory Authority. Doris, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Fred.
What do you do as UBRA, first and foremost?
Well, our mandate as UBRA is to regulate the retirement benefit sector, which you know is composed of the public service scheme, and it also has the mandatory schemes such as NSSF, which majority of the employed people in Uganda fall under. We also have occupational schemes that are run and established by employers who feel that over and above NSSF, we should save more for our employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's first and foremost begin with the taxation policy regarding our topic of discussion, which is retirement. Well, what does the policy say about retirement?
Well, for retirement, the Constitution says that all pensions and retirement benefits are not supposed to be taxed. However, at the point of investment, that is when your deductions and contributions are being placed into the different schemes, they will be subjected to a taxation, and then even the investment income from those from the contributions. Let's say if your scheme has contributed and decided to invest in a treasury bond, they've invested in equities, buying shares in companies, the income that comes from those various investments is taxed. However, at the point of payout, when you reach the retirement age and you are being paid your accrued benefits, then the total sum of your accrued benefits will not be taxed at that point.
Okay.
It will be exempt.
Let me go straight now to the core issue. I don't know if you've worked with a private company. I have worked with private companies. Many times we save our money and we are not sure whether our money gets to the right places and to the right people. Maybe has this happened to you?
Yes, it has, definitely. It has.
What's your experience?
Well, my experience has been there are some employers who will deduct money from you. You know you're getting a gross maybe of X amount, and your money comes as a net, so meaning some money has been deducted to be taken maybe to NSSF and to pay your tax. However, you'll find that you're not getting a statement. You're not getting a statement that is updated. The statement that NSSF gives you or your scheme will be giving you seems to have last been updated maybe 6 months ago, 3 months ago. So that is already a red flag. And it shows you that whereas people have been deducting, your company has been deducting money, they have not been actually remitting it or paying it to NSSF or the scheme that you belong to. So what do you do when you get such a red flag? My experience has been I first of all talk to the accounts people. What's happening? First talk to your employer. Was this money deducted? When are you remitting? If they are not forthcoming, there's always an opportunity for you to report directly to an NSSF office. Luckily, NSSF has different branches as well as a head office, so you're able to lodge a complaint from NSSF. Once you're not satisfied with NSSF, then currently you can come to UBRA, where we have a complaints handling unit.
So you seem to be saying reducting money is different from remission.
Yes,
is it what you're suggesting?
Yes, sir.
Why is the difference?
The difference is usually when you get your appointment letter, now I want to be more practical. When you get your appointment letter, there will be a certain amount of money that is stated as your gross pay. So once every month when you're being paid, they are supposed to pay you less the NSSF contribution. And in this case, you're supposed to, the employer should deduct 5% from your gross pay, and they should, and the employer also has a mandate to contribute 10% over and above the 5% they deduct from you. So that in itself is just the first step of compliance by your employer.
Okay.
Yes. Once they deduct, then they need to take the second step, which is to pay to the NSSF payment modes. They have different modes in which they can pay.
So there's deduction and there's remission. So
yes, sir.
When do I tell that my money has reached my savings? I am now being particular, either with the scheme, which is UBRA, or with the Uganda National Social Security Fund. So when do I know that my money, which has been deducted, has actually reached the right account?
Okay, so when at the point of deduction, the law requires that this money that has been deducted is remitted by the 15th day of the next month. So in this case, if you were paid the October salary, by the 15th of November, the company that pays your salary should have now gotten what they deducted and paid it into the accounts of NSSF or the scheme that you belong to. Yeah.
Why the 15 days? Why not immediately?
The 15 days is to give an allowance because different companies have different days in which they pay salary. Some may pay on the 25th, pay on the 30th. So these 15 days are to allow the company to get itself in order, because it's usually a process, you know, getting the payroll in order, ensuring that the right amount of money has been verified on the payroll, and then later on they deduct the money. So it's just to give the employer time to comply.
That is if the company is consistent with the debts and
yes.
actually also with payments. I know there are many companies that are struggling as a result of many other factors. So whom do I go to if I want to know that the money, yes, has reached the right people? Okay. As a local Ugandan, whom do I run to?
Usually when the money hits the account, maybe I forgot to say that usually if it's NSSF, you may get an SMS or a notification of sorts that tells you that, hey, a certain this specific amount, X amount of money has been credited to your NSSF account. For other occupational schemes, they may give you an SMS alert, or every month there's an arrangement for you to get a statement, because that is part of the right of having access to information. As a member, you're supposed to know that, okay, this is the rate in which, this is the amount of money that's deducted from me every month, and this is how much I have accumulated. So that's why every scheme, such as NSSF and the other occupational schemes, will be mandated or required to give you a monthly statement. For some schemes like NSSF, they'll have a website. You can log in, put your NSSF number, phone number, and then you'll be able to see a screen showing you how much has been paid into your account over the months of the year or over the years. For other schemes, sometimes NSSF actually gives you an email if you avail your email address, and they'll give you a scanned copy of your statement. So those are the different ways in which you can monitor your statement.
You seem to be speaking to people in the urban areas. So talk to my grandmother who is right in the village. Is this really possible?
It is possible because, you see, even the grandmothers in the village may be employed in, some of them may be employed in companies.
They can't access a mail, maybe they cannot be in position to access a notification.
True, but something about these different schemes is most people have mobile phones. At least I know even your grandmother must be having a mobile phone. So what most of the schemes are doing these days is they have you have access to information through your mobile phone, and you can get alerts of SMS alerts. And if you're not satisfied with what is on your statement, or if you have a query, there will always be a number that you can contact on your phone, on your mobile phone. Or you can even access, for instance, the biggest scheme right now is NSSF. NSSF has an array of branches. You'll go to Fort Portal, you'll find a branch, you go to Jinja. There are several branches, even in Kampala itself. You won't find only a branch you'll not only be able to interact with NSSF at their head office. They'll have different areas in Mukono where they have different offices. So you walk in with your card, your membership number. If you belong to NSSF, if you belong to another scheme, you'll be able to contact your trustees and ask them for information concerning the benefits. If you have a query with underpayment, unpayment, whatever the query is, your right as a member is to get information, and you can get it from your trustee. In the case of bigger schemes like NSSF, you go to the office where they have.
And then you can be helped. Those joining us on the coffee court, we addressed most of the critical questions. I know many of you out there, you've reached retirement, and by the time you run to the schemes or the NSSF, the only language that welcomes you is that there is no money. And Doris Kahura, the senior legal officer, says it is really possible for us to get this money. What does the law say about this? And if I am not in position to have access to my money, or my money is not there, what do I do?
Okay, now there are several instances in which someone may access their money. Usually it's at the point of retirement when you'll be able to, when you are allowed access to your money. But currently, as you are aware, the law was amended and there is something called midterm access.
Okay.
So when you have served with NSSF in particular for 10 years, and you've made about 120 deposits onto your account, then you'll be able to access even up to 20% of what you have accrued.
That's with the new law.
That's with the new law. But aside from that type of benefit, there are other benefits. Sometimes someone will die before the retirement age. That is a survivor's benefit. That is under the NSSF law. So in that case, the people who are beneficiaries, in this case, you may have nominated people with NSSF, or you may have left a will that says, you know what, these are the people, this person is in charge of all my property, to administer my property. Some people die even before a will. So your family members who have letters of administration will be able to access the survivor's benefit, which is all the money that has been saved on your behalf by your employer, your various employers under NSSF. There is also the point of retirement. You've reached the 55 years, and you want to vacate, or you want to access your benefits and use them and plan accordingly for your future. So in that case, there are certain procedures in the NSSF Act and regulations where you will need to go to the NSSF office, show them that I've reached retirement age and I need to be able to access my benefits. So you fill in the necessary forms and you'll be able to access your money. If you have a challenge with accessing your benefits, there is a procedure. NSSF has a complaints procedure.
Where is it?
It is on their website. You're able to file a complaint on their website. But for those who are not able, as you mentioned earlier, that some people are in remote areas or simply don't know how to use websites and that kind of technology, you still have access to an NSSF office where you can go and lodge your complaint and say, you know what, I have challenges, I retired, I have put in my application, but it's not working out.
How often can I do this to get this notification? How often can I ask for this notification?
You mean the notification for
For me to know how much I've saved?
Oh.
Yes.
For you to be able to know how much you've saved, usually you're able to register. You can go and register with NSSF and say, you know what, send me an SMS notification on this number. It comes on a monthly basis. Each time your account is credited, they'll tell you this amount of money has been credited.
Okay.
At least that is what, as I am also a member of NSSF, and that has been my experience.
Okay.
If you choose to go the technology route and say, I want an email, then you can give them your email address and then they'll be able to give it to you on a monthly basis. However, there will be instances, unfortunately, where some people's benefits are not paid. So once their benefits are not paid, definitely they won't get an alert on their phone or an alert on their email. And now that's when you should go and probe the NSSF office. Or if you belong to an occupational scheme, probe your trustees. These trustees are people like you and me, and they should be put to task to answer why you're not getting notifications. Or if you've reached retirement age and you submitted your forms and you want your money to be paid, they should be put to task. Even NSSF itself should be put to task as to why your benefits have not been paid yet you filled in the form. In case you're not satisfied with the NSSF answer, you can come to UBRA. We have a complaints desk, and then we can help you to address that issue.
Such issues.
Yes.
You are privileged that you work with government. Some people work with the private sector, and the things you're talking about, I dream. If I'm working with an institution and all they tell me, we have put your money in the NSSF, and yet in the actual sense, you know, they are not paying. So what do you do in such a situation?
Well, NSSF has a whistleblowers policy. So do these other occupational schemes, and so does UBRA. UBRA is the regulator of NSSF and all those other occupational schemes. So once you receive information like that, because that is very critical information to your future.
And it is happening. I know you are aware.
Yes, it's happening, Fred. So what you need to do is write, if you are afraid of, let's say you're still working with these people and you're afraid of being terminated, you can write an anonymous letter to the CEO, to the managing director of NSSF, and you inform them that, you know what, I work for this particular company, I have been employed for this amount of time, maybe this number of years. However, I have never received a statement in respect to this. And maybe if you know of your colleagues who have the same query, you can say, I know of this number of colleagues who have a similar challenge.
Okay.
NSSF has the mandate under the law to actually go after and investigate this particular employer who's not complying. And we can also support on the issue of compliance. We have a supervision team that is able to carry out investigations and come up with a remedial plan so that your employer actually satisfies the demand of the law and remits that money within a certain period of time.
Okay. By the way, what do you do with our money when we begin to save? You've heard of people say, we reached a point during COVID and said, Sentes are fair, President Museveni has because You've heard people say, government has used our savings. Is that the right?
It's not right. The UBRA Act and regulations prescribe a certain form of investment of the money that is saved with the different schemes, both mandatory and the occupational schemes. NSSF subscribes to these particular regulations, and they show what can be invested in and what is restricted and cannot be invested in. For instance, if it's a speculative kind of investment like Bitcoin, you know, that sort of thing, there's a restriction in the law that cannot be a viable investment of the schemes. So the trustees, NSSF, by the way, has a board of trustees, so do the other schemes.
But
so the trustees are empowered to come up with an investment policy, then follow that policy. But that investment policy should be as per the law.
But is it true that government uses our money?
No, government does not use your money. Government may be is one of the viable investments for schemes or for trustees of a scheme, because the central bank, for instance, the most common investment in this sector, in the retirement benefit sector, is treasury bonds and bills.
Okay.
So you'll find that because they are secure, and there's usually there's most likely a guarantee, a strong guarantee that government will pay. Even with the change of regimes, there will always be a repayment. And bonds can be as low as 5 years or 10 years of an investment. So when the NSSF, for instance, gets maybe 1 trillion shillings and buys bonds, this money is not given to government. It's a form of lending to government, but it is going to get back that money as a scheme. NSSF will get back that money with an interest after a specific period of time, say 5 years and onwards.
Maybe next time when we meet, we'll talk about issues of bonds, which I know, treasury bills, which I know is one of those critical. Your parting shots as we plan to wind up.
Well, my parting shots are members are the most important people, members of the different schemes, NSSF, and the various occupational schemes. You're the most important people in the retirement benefits sector. UBRA exists to protect your rights, and you know your rights are to access information. Your rights are to get equal treatment. You know you shouldn't be marginalized in the different schemes you belong to. However little or however much you are saving with the different schemes, UBRA is there to protect whatever is being deducted from your earnings. And we are here to ensure that whatever is being invested is secure, and it can, and we put the different stakeholders like your trustees to task to answer to different issues concerning how much are they spending, you know, in the scheme. How much have they returned? Have they reported on the returns from the investments? That sort of thing. So we are here for you as UBRA. We are not far from you, and don't relax when you see your money is being deducted and you're not really sure about where it is going. You should empower yourself by going to the right offices and ensure that you get the information you need. That is your right.
Doris Kahura, thank you for sparing time and speaking to us, especially on matters regarding savings. Of course, she's a senior legal officer here at the Uganda Retirement Benefit Regulatory Authority. And if there are things you shouldn't play with, please do not play with people's money. My name is Fred Makubia, and this is the Coffee Court.
Thank you, Fred Bakubia, for that insightful conversation. I hope my audience and I were able to pick a thing or two about retirement benefits. Business Today will now end here. As always, thank you for your company. If you missed this, there's a link on YouTube at Smart24 TV and more updates of the like on Twitter, Facebook, and the like. Thank you. My name is NAHABWE with Winnie Wiyinza Naka Uchinda Sign Language. Until next time, good night.
Smart24